While the subcommittee did hold one legislative hearing prior to the markup, and the full committee held 3 such hearings over a 2-week period before the full committee markup, all of these hearings were held without the benefit of any economic or environmental analysis. The committee members had no idea what the impacts of this legislation would be when we considered the bill in December. We offered a number of amendments to protect workers, families, and try to keep a check on energy prices. Almost all of them were defeated. But we were promised that our issues would be addressed before the bill reaches the Senate floor. Well, that was last December. On May the 20th, less than 2 weeks ago, the committee bill and report was finally filed after a more than 5-month delay. For a bill of this magnitude, and I remind my colleagues how the Wall Street Journal characterized it. I'll repeat again. This bill would impose the most extensive government reorganization of the American economy since the 1930s, unquote. Only allowing senators to review the report for less than 2 weeks is highly troubling. Even more troubling is the same week we all saw for the first time 2 more versions of the same bill. Later on May 20th, a new version of the bill with a never-before-seen amendment was filed and held at the desk as a new bill, S-3036, which is actually a version that we will be voting on this evening. Then finally on Friday, the May 23rd, a manager's substitute which completely rewrote the legislation was circulated to members. I can only assume that once cloture is invoked, and it will be invoked, that we'll begin debating this bill, that the substitute will be offered, which is, of course, something that's never been subject of hearings, economic analysis, or environmental benefit tests. Now, since the markup last December, we've had numerous economic modeling and analysis conducted by the EPA, the Energy Information Agencies, and multiple private sector analysis. Unfortunately, the Committee of Jurisdiction, the Environment Public Works Committee, never bothered to hold a single hearing on any of these economic reports. I would like to report out that the Senate Energy and Natural Resources held an economic hearing on our bill 2 weeks ago, and I applaud Chairman Bingaman for holding that important hearing. I will be quoting from that hearing that was the Energy and Natural Resources Committee several times during the course of this debate. So where are we today? We spent months holding impact hearings and then rushed through a few quickly scheduled legislative hearings, hold a markup without any analysis of the bill, and then waited for over 5 months before receiving yet 2 more drafts of the bill. The last version, a mere 10 days ago, the Senate is now being asked to vote for cloture on a motion to proceed to a bill that was released 2 weeks ago. Although I believe we really need to debate these issues on the Senate floor, and many of the members who opposed the Lieberman-Warner bill are voting to proceed to it, I find it most difficult to vote to proceed to the largest tax increase in the history of America. The mechanics of this bill, the impacts, the costs have never been fully debated, and they deserve to be. Proponents of this legislation have talked about how important this bill is and why we need to act. I believe this warrants full debate. In 1990, the Senate spent over 5 weeks debating the Clean Air Act amendments. I was serving in the House at that time. It went on and on and on. This bill goes much further than the Clean Air Act amendments on the American economy and its impact on jobs and its impact on our international competitiveness. It'll do more to direct our energy policy for the next 50 years than either the Energy Bill of 2007 or the Energy Bill of 2005 combined. I hope the majority intends to provide enough time to fully debate this legislation and doesn't plan to rush it on and off the floor in an attempt to check a box. Over the next few days, you'll see a number of Republican amendments, which I believe will get bipartisan support, which will attempt to protect our worker, our families, and our international competitiveness, and will promote clean energy solutions. There have been many comments in the press, particularly from the chairman of the committee, that this bill will be pulled if any so-called weakening amendments are adopted. And I would hope that we will have a constructive and open debate on this bill, and there will be many amendments offered, and I hope debated and voted upon. This bill is the largest bill we'll consider this Congress. In fact, it's probably the largest bill ever considered by the United States Senate in its impact on the economy and our entire way of life, and I hope the majority will give it the time it deserves. But 2 weeks from now, or whenever that vote does take place, keep in mind tonight's vote at 5:30 is only a vote, a cloture vote on a motion to proceed. It's a procedural vote, but it allows us to go in there and limit debate on the bill. But whenever the real vote comes, or however long it takes to reach the final vote, it will be both interesting and informative to see how many members of the United States Senate vote for the largest tax increase in the history of America. Now, we'll be talking about a number of things during the course of this debate. Some of this will be tonight, some of it will be over the next few days. And we are anxious to do that. And for our purposes today, we will be allocating time, and I would like to announce that after the time that is already under unanimous consent to go to Senators Lieberman and Warner, that we will start going back and forth. I will be controlling the time of those who oppose the bill, and Senator Boxer will be, or Senator Lieberman will be handling the time of those who support it. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Senator from Connecticut.
I thank the chair. Mr. President, I wonder if I might ask unanimous consent at this point that Senator Cardin be recognized for up to 5 minutes. The reason for this is that Senator Cardin has to preside at 4 o'clock, and then we'd go back to the 20 minutes divided between Senator Warner and myself, and then presumably somebody that you would designate. And we're happy to add 5 minutes on your end to make it equal.
All right, so long as the allocation of time doesn't punish us, and I'd also, as a unanimous consent, lock in after your presentation, Senator Bond, for 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Is there objection? Without objection.
Mr. President.
Senator from Maryland.